Welcome to Animated Discussions. My friends call me D, and today, you're right, I did lose $1 million last year, and I'll probably lose $1 million this year. And we're expected to lose $1 million next year. You know, Mr. Thatcher, at this rate, I'll have to close down the newspaper in 60 years. Citizen Kane is about Kane, the death of a newspaper mogul who died with one word leaving his lips. As a result, every other newspaper in town is now trying to figure out what his dying word meant.
Find out about Rosebud. Get in touch with everybody that ever knew him. Oh, who knew him well.
This movie stars Orson Welles, Joseph Cotten, and Dorothy Cummingore.
I thought maybe we could have a talk together.
Well, think again.
Written by Herman J. Mankiewicz, John Houseman, and was written and directed by Orson Welles. This movie is so high on the top 100 list. I had really high expectations for it, and I have to say, just a quick overview, I'm kind of disappointed. Is that okay to say?
No.
I don't know if that's okay to say, but I am. I'm kind of disappointed. I expected more. I don't know. But that's just my quick opinion. Okay, so let's run through what I saw. And you guys let me know if I'm wrong or not. Deal? Deal. The first 7 minutes in the movie, I was like, oh, is this just going to be like a documentary?
News on the march.
Because I've seen movies where they have that overview, a news report before we really see the story. But this was going on for so long that I was like, oh, is this how they're going to tell the whole story? Just, it's because he's a newsman, they're going to make it a whole news thing? Because it felt like a little too long for me, personally. But it was really interesting seeing his history. Like, your wife and child die, and 2 weeks later you marry a singer?
That's why he's going to be brought up where you can't get at him.
It's giving scandalous. Scandy candy. Also, he definitely reminded me of Hamilton a lot. Him running for governor and then everything coming out about the affair, and so he can't run, but everything he says influences politics. It's very much giving Hamilton. It makes me wonder how many leaders did not get to be leaders because of a scandal, who might have been good leaders. So those are like the first 7 minutes, which is very interesting to me. Learning a lot about him. I like the quick overview. I will say I thought that was cool because they do dive deeper into a lot of that later. But I was like, this is the whole movie. I'm not feeling it. Okay, here's what I will say was my favorite part about the movie. I loved how, for the most part, the newscasters were in black. Like, you could barely see their faces while they were trying to get information. I noticed a few things with this. The more information someone knew about him, the lighter his face would get. When someone would make a wrong prediction, the darker their face would get. So, for example, when Orson Welles wrote out the principles about what he wanted the newspaper to be, as he's talking about that plan, you can't see his face. And it was I love that, because it's like, this is what you want to happen. This is not what's going to happen. You are so far removed from what you actually think you're about to do. And I loved, it was almost like foreshadowing for the audience of like, this person is in the dark. They do not know things that they think they know, or they know they don't know things, but they're looking for it. The only people you could actually see were people who knew about Wells or were influencing what was happening to Wells. Even if they were an extra, they were a part of that memory or a part of that story. And I was like, oh. It reminded me of Merrily We Roll Along. If you've seen that play, I've only seen it once, and it still sucker punches me whenever I think about it. But the end of the movie is the beginning, and the beginning is at the end. So you see everything that someone goes through, and you see the decisions that led to the scene prior. And so it's watching the future backwards. And at the end of the movie, you see their optimism about how great their life is going to be, how good it's going to be. And you want to be excited because you feel that hope, but you know you can't because you already know how it ends. And so that gave me the same feeling as Kane talking about his values while he's in the dark. It's like, oh, he's not going to accomplish what he thinks he's going to accomplish. But he doesn't know that yet. the people around him seem intrigued. I don't know if they fully believe it. Man, that was such a good shot. And I love the in the dark that happens so much in this movie. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me in this movie is using the dark to emphasize who you should focus on and to pay attention to what they're saying because you know they're either lying or they're not aware or there's something they don't know that they're trying to figure out in that scene. And whew, that I can see why it was put on the top 100. I still don't think it should have been top 10 personally, but that's just me. Whatever. I love Susan. I loved Susan from the beginning, from her first line of like, did I tell you to sit down? Everyone just wants my story. She was amazing. I also loved her line at the end where she's like, yeah, I lost all my money. And the newscaster was like, I know you had a hard life. She's like, I didn't say I had a hard life. I said I lost all my money. And you could see that she knew money didn't matter. She had it. She had all of Kane's money. Kane spent so much money on her. And she knew it was nothing. So for her to stick to that at the very end of like, yeah, I lost all my money. I didn't have a rough life. I just lost all my money. Whew. Susan's life was very tragic. Here's what I struggled with the storytelling of the movie. There were so many things that they hinted at in the beginning in that first 7 minutes. Then they would go back to that as the reporter would meet people from that certain time. Susan to talk about Susan's story, Jedediah to talk about the news, like things like that, Thatcher. But there were things that they did not dive deeper into that I felt like should have had more attention. His wife and child dying. We didn't see his mourning. We didn't see it happening. We didn't see any of that. I thought that was interesting because the movie is about people telling stories about Kane and how he felt about certain things. People would tell stories about other people. Like Jedediah would tell stories about how Kane interacted with certain people, you know? And so I get if the argument is, well, if they were alive, they could talk about how Kane felt about them. But other people in Kane's life talked about other people in Kane's life. And so no one talked about how he felt about his wife and kid's death, at least his son. I don't know. That's just such a big part to not acknowledge. Why put it in the story at all? I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I'm always missing something in these movies. But yeah, this one I was like, we ain't gonna talk about it? Like at all? At all? Okay, so when Jedediah and Kane are going to the newspaper for the first time, this is one of my favorite shots when they're in the carriage and they're talking. They get out the carriage, and then as the carriage pulls away, it reveals them going into the building. I really like that shot, and I think it's a really cool shot. I don't even know if I have a full reason for it, but I just like this transfer of like the carriage is carrying them, and now it's carrying the next transition as they go into the building. And I thought that was a really cool, it's my favorite shot in the movie. I'm double checking to make sure I'm not lying. My second favorite shot is the applause gif. Yeah, it's my favorite shot in the movie, and it's just a nice flow to it, I feel like, and I think it's a good transitional moment, even though the camera is static, you know? It's not as if the carriage moves and it ushers the next scene. You're still in the same shot. I don't know, I just really like that. Sometimes you don't always need a reason. It just tickles your brain. And my brain be tickled. I also really like the transition of the photo of the people for the Chronicle turning into a photo for the people for the Inquirer. Petty. We love a petty person.
6 years ago, I looked at a picture of the world's greatest newspaper men. I felt like a kid in front of a candy store. Well, tonight, 6 years later, I got my candy. All of it. Welcome, gentlemen, to the Inquirer.
Kane was so petty, which goes to the first Mrs. Kane. I loved her being petty as they're getting tired of each other and you can see the marriage fall apart. She starts to read the Chronicle at home. I am gagging. I am gagging. Relationships really bring out the petty in people. Jedediah is a very fascinating character. He was a best friend. He was someone who had you could see the delineation between him and Kane as the story was progressing. It wasn't a subtle thing. It was becoming very, very obvious. And when Kane had acquired all the people for the Inquirer, and Bernstein's excited, but Jedediah's like,
These men who were with the Chronicle, weren't they just as devoted to the Chronicle policies as they are now to our policies?
Jedediah is keeping a close eye on what's happening. He's watching his friend. He's the one who holds on to that value of principles that he then uses later to express how he really feels about how Kane is functioning and the decisions that he's making. I enjoy watching Jedediah. He also looks like Cody Rhodes to me, which you love a win, you know? So, winner. When Jedediah is drunk and he says,
Charlie, when your precious underprivileged really get together, oh boy, that's going to add up to something bigger than your privilege, and I don't know what you'll do. Sail away to a desert island, probably, and lord it over the monkeys.
It reminds me of the scene in the beginning where we see monkeys at Xanadu. And it's really cool because it seems like a foreshadowing. I don't know what it's called when you saw the end result, but then you go to the past and they talk about it. So it's like foreshadowing, but it already happened. But it was like, oh, that is what he did. He just brought the jungle to him. He's Michael Jackson, y'all. There's this sadness. And Jedediah plays it more angry for sure. But I do think there's a sadness there of watching a friend not become who you both thought you would be. And I can't say that Jedediah was perfect either, obviously. There were some things that Jedediah did, but there's just this pain there. And I think Jedediah did know Kane better than anyone else. Like, for him to write that scathing report of his wife after her opera debut, and then for Kane to keep it, and Jedediah to know why he kept it, to prove that he's still an honest person. It's sad when someone who knows you that well isn't in your life anymore. Doesn't mean it's not necessary, but it's sad, you know? And then that little dig.
Oh, his dying words, Rosebud. Yeah, I saw that in the Inquirer. Well, I never believed anything I saw in the Inquirer.
Oh, these people are petty, and I'm living for it. Here's what I'll say. It's really fascinating. I kind of want to know who wrote what. There were 3 main writers credited for this movie. The overall flow of the movie, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I feel like there were some big parts that didn't get acknowledged, and there were some other parts that almost got too much acknowledgement, and some things I still wanted more information on. But the one-liners in this movie were so good. So good. So good. There's the quote that Kane talks to Thatcher about when Thatcher is complaining about the newspaper, and Kane's like,
The trouble is you don't realize you're talking to 2 people. As Charles Foster Kane, who owns 82,364 shares of public transit preferred, you see, I do have a general idea of my holdings. I sympathize with you. Charles Foster Kane is a scoundrel. You may, if you can form such a committee, put me down for a contribution of $1,000.
My time's
On the
too
other
bad.
hand, I am the publisher of the Inquirer. As such, it's my duty, and I'll let you in on a little secret. It's also my pleasure to see to it that decent, hard-working people in this community aren't robbed blind by a pack of money-mad pirates.
it's so sassy. I love the sass. Another line I like is the quote I used for the beginning when he's like, I'll lose $1 million next year. You know, I can keep this open for 60 more years. And it's just like, man, there are so many good lines. The other line is like when Kane and Thatcher, almost, I don't know how many years later, but a good amount of years later, where he does have to sell the paper.
You know, Mr. Bernstein, if I hadn't been very rich, I might have been a really great man. Don't you think you are? I think I did pretty well under the circumstances. What would you like to have been? Everything you hate.
It's just like their relationship was insane, man. It doesn't seem like there was a lot of love there, but he's his mentor is one of the oldest people he knows. There's so much, and you can even tell in that scene what a complicated relationship he had with his mother, and showcasing that, and whew, good stuff. It's really good stuff. This movie's coming around. You guys are watching in real time. This movie kind of coming around for me because I'm noticing things that I didn't notice while I was watching. Okay, Wells, I'm not convinced yet, but we're coming around to it. We're coming around to it. And that's all for this movie. So far, I give Citizen Kane, it's number 8 on the list. If you know the Grave of the Fireflies lore, that makes it number 20, but I digress. I might do a deeper dive. I haven't had a chance to study this film as much as I study the other ones. This week was a little crazy. And I really want to know why it's so high on the list. I might go for a little swim. Go down a rabbit hole. Anyways, let me know what you think. If you have any questions or if you vehemently disagree, I feel like I will get a lot of pushback on this episode, and I'm okay with that. We're here to learn. I want to learn. Let me know. Anyways, I hope you have a great time and an amazing day, and as always, see you later.